One security expert declared, "This isn't an act of terrorism, this is an act of war." Noting there was no direct evidence, several experts pointed out that few terrorist organizations around the world were capable of mounting such an audacious attack. They mentioned only one man by name, a name repeated by U.S. officials for years.
There is not the slightest doubt that Osama bin Laden, his worldwide allies, and his sympathizers are planning further attacks against us. Despite progress against his networks, bin Laden's organization has contacts virtually worldwide, including in the United States, and he has stated unequivocally that all Americans are targets.
For almost a decade, Osama bin Laden has been accused or suspected of coordinating attacks on the United States, on U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia, on U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, in the suicide mission against the USS Cole, at the World Trade Center in 1993, and the list goes on. Terrorism experts paint a picture of bin Laden as a Saudi-born revolutionary determined to end U.S. involvement in Saudi Arabia. In interviews, bin Laden has renewed his vow to bring jihad or holy war against the United States. Specifically, he said Washington had failed to get the message from bombings aimed at U.S. forces in Saudi Arabia.
We declared a jihad, a holy war, against the United States government because it is unjust, criminal, and tyrannical.
Terrorism analysts warned earlier this year Osama bin Laden was turning his attention to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, hoping to win armed converts and gain global political momentum out of the chaos of the collapsed peace process. Bin Laden's wealth, estimated by some at around $200 million, is seen as key to not only recruiting militant followers, but funding carefully planned and coordinated attacks. U.S. officials blame Osama bin Laden in the attacks on the U.S. embassies in Nairobi, Kenya, and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, which they say were carefully timed to increase the dramatic effects of a simultaneous onslaught against U.S. interests.
The camera's out of here. Let's go. Get off now.
It is precisely the same strategy that appears to be at work in the financial and political centers of America in the latest attacks. U.S. officials assert that bin Laden initiated his terrorist network during the war in Afghanistan, later moved to training bases in Sudan, and is currently being sheltered by Afghanistan's ruling Taliban. The Taliban say they have been warned the U.S. will hold Afghanistan responsible for any attack on U.S. interests linked to bin Laden.
There are governments like Afghanistan which are engaged in the smuggling of heroin and the harboring of terrorists. Governments such as Afghanistan, I think, have to be considered criminal organizations.
Sanctions against Afghanistan are already in place. U.S. missile strikes hit bin Laden's training facilities there in 1998, but missed the 44-year-old leader of an organization he simply calls the base. Earlier this year, reporters who visited bin Laden in Afghanistan said he appeared to be in a race against time, a race to see who could strike first, the United States or Osama bin Laden. It may be weeks or months before those behind what is apparently the worst terrorist strikes in the history of the U.S. are known. What is certain is that Osama bin Laden is already high on the list of suspects. One Arab journalist says Osama bin Laden warned 3 weeks ago that he and his followers would carry out an unprecedented attack against the United States.